Pitching is something that I learned on the phone. So learning it on the phone is applicable to, I guess, cold email, but not in the same way. Copywriting and phone sales are two very different arts, let's say. But I remember my first opening line when I was calling on the phone. It was, "Good afternoon, my name is Tristan Tate. I'm calling from T3 Television, and I'd like to discuss the opportunity of television advertising for your company." That was the first line that I would say on the phone. So, who I was, where I was calling from, what I wanted from them, what I wanted them to entertain the idea of. Because it was always a tantalizing carrot I'd dangle in front of them, "I'd like to discuss the possibility of television advertising for your company." I was waiting then for a series of objections. So to pitch, you need to come across letting them know who you are and what you want very fast, because CEOs and people who own businesses have very little time for idiots on the phone. Objections are the key to telephone sales and face-to-face sales as well. Everyone's going to try to say no for a bunch of different reasons, and you have to be able to counter them very, very quickly. So let's take television advertising again. "I'm calling to discuss the possibility of television advertising for your company." "Well, that's too expensive. I can't afford television advertising." "Well, do you know how much television advertising is nowadays?" And they'd be like, "Well, no, but I imagine it's quite expensive." And I say, "Well, you know what? You're completely correct. You don't belittle them. You're completely correct. But your ideas are outdated, because back in the 1990s, when there were only 4 television channels to advertise on, these big media companies had a monopoly over the fact that people watch television, and only big blue chip companies could afford it. However, since the advent of cable television and the 200 plus channels you have across your home, it's given us 2 advantages. 1, the prices have come right down because there's more channels to compete with one another. And 2, you can specify exactly which demographics you want to reach with your television commercials. For example, if you're trying to sell to women and you're selling makeup, we could target Sex in the City on this channel. If you're trying to target men, then we can use 2.5 Men on Comedy Central. And you'd wow them with knowledge while overcoming their objections. So the art of pitching is to be able to turn any no, or any "I don't think so," or any "I'm not interested," into a question, into them being curious. And it's something that we call the desire curve. Of course, everybody wants television advertising, but they don't think it's right for their business. They don't think they can afford it. You start at 0, and the close can only be made on the graph once you get their desire high enough. That's when they say, "Yes, I'm happy to meet you face to face." So pitching is all about face-to-face or on the phone in a live conversation with a person, how to deal with and overcome their objections to not wanting the product that you want to sell. Now, copywriting is a very different art because it doesn't work like a free-flowing conversation. And I'm quite good at it, and I did a lot of the early copywriting for mine and Andrew's businesses when we first started out to sell, for example, War Room memberships. I did some of it back then. However, I'm not an expert. But you know who is an expert? The professor inside the real world. So if you want to learn 2024 sales, don't listen to me, the 36-year-old man who has a career in sales in the past and on the phone. Very, very useful skills to know and still applicable today. However, if you're looking for sales information on how to sell via email, how to copyright, how to send cold correspondence and get clients back, then you want to be inside the real world. Pitching face-to-face, business meetings. On the phone, you can hear the confidence in somebody. You can hear how they're coming across. It's the way I'm speaking to the camera right now. I'm not speaking to the camera like, when you're pitching people. They can hear it on the phone, but in person, they can feel it. Nice, firm handshake. Sitting like this, trying to explain your ideas. Being animated with your hands when you're pitching your ideas. Being excited in your voice when you're pitching your ideas. If I were to sit here and say like, when you're pitching people in person, what you need to do is be excitable and make sure that you're coming across right. It's not the same. It's not the same. You have to have the energy. You have to have the fire. You certainly don't have to seem like it's the most important thing in the world, like you care more than anything else in the world, but you need to seem like you care more than them. That's the key. If this business has a problem and I can fix it, I care about this man's business visibly more than he does during that meeting. That's the only thing that's going to get a man excited. There are very few types of sales where a salesman could sit back and be like, "Well, here's the price, here's the best I could do, do you want it or not?" And I've been sold those things in some ways. I went into the Rolls-Royce showroom in London, and the guy's name, I believe, was Warren or Stephen. It may have been Stephen, actually, the guy who sold me the Rolls-Royce. Older gentleman, very well dressed, very smart. It was £500,000 on this price tag of this car. It was the only one for sale. He knew it was the only one for sale. He knew if I didn't want to buy that one, I'd have to wait 6 months after ordering one. And he said, "Well, I've been doing this a long time, guys. 465, best I could do, yes or no?" And I was like, "Cool, yes." Because he's in a very unique position as a salesman. He hasn't come to me and said, "Hey, Tristan, do you want to get around in luxury? Here's a brand new product called a Rolls-Royce Wraith. That didn't happen. I saw the car. I fell in love with it. I walked into his showroom, as hundreds of time wasters do every day. He's busy. He doesn't care. There's one for sale, and he made the close. But that is a very exceptionally difficult type of sales to get into. How many Toyotas has Steven sold in his lifetime? How many Lancias? How many Austins? I'm talking about old car brands that were around in his time. He's a much older man. How many Mini Coopers did this guy sell to get to the elite pinnacle of sales when he is in the London Rolls-Royce showroom selling their premium vehicles? Probably a lifetime of work, so he deserves to be there. But he's done plenty of hard closes on Land Rovers and Jeeps, believe me. You know what else you could do if you were broke? You could find a business to start that takes very little money to start. Now, I ran a webcam studio, and I'm talking about it more and more these days because of this stupid police case against me and these stupid false accusations. So a webcam studio was an example of a business that at the time when I was young and broke, I didn't need very much money to start. I had the expertise into how all the websites worked. And how to build social media profiles. The girls were obviously pretty. You needed a laptop and a webcam and a keyboard, and that's all you really needed to get started. And you could make thousands of dollars per week that way. And then you could scale your business from there. Now, there are many different businesses that will take your time up, but don't cost money to start. Even in your local area. I mean, you have a lawnmower, you got no money. Maybe you need $500, $600, $700 before you can buy the equipment you need to get it to the next step. Go door to door with your lawnmower before you can hire some Mexican to do it for you and cut everyone's grass before you have the time to register a company, hire an employee, and get him cutting grass for you and then scale from there. So find a business that doesn't take much to start up. Certainly don't go around asking people for money like people ask me all the time. Hey, Tate, I'm broke, but I've got this business idea. I need 50 grand. If you're good at business and you have a good business mind, you will find a business that you can do without begging me for money because I'm never going to see that 50 grand again. Shopping in London is all about the sales experience, and the sales experience of the things you buy in London is better than almost anywhere in the world. New York, comparable. Some places in Dubai, comparable. However, even when I was in the Rolls-Royce showroom, signing the papers for the car, looking the car up and down, etc., there was champagne in my hand, all the champagne I could drink. You're sitting there, getting pissed. It's part of the English culture. I think that's why English do it best. It's exactly the same on Savile Row when I go to get my suits made. When I go and I try this jacket on for size, it's a bit too big in the shoulders, and they're pinning it down, etc. There's a gin and tonic in one hand, a champagne in the other hand. You're talking, you're making stupid jokes, you're feeling all these expensive materials, you're making stupid decisions, you're drunk as fuck, you have a good night out, you go home and you're hungover the next morning, you look at your tailoring bill and you're like, I've spent 160,000 pounds, haven't I? However, it's totally worth it. The shopping experience for the most expensive things in the world is not just about picking up the item. Procuring the item is secondary. And it should be the same. London's getting dangerous nowadays, but even if you go into a Patek Philippe shop and you've ordered this watch, obviously, you would have had to order it in advance and it's ready and you go in there to pick it up. It's, oh, hello, Mr. Tate, how are you? Please take a seat. Would you like a glass of champagne? Even when Andrew goes into Armani, for example, because he's such a well-known customer, it's, oh, hi guys, how are you? You sit down, here's some booze, not for Andrew because he doesn't drink, and let me bring all the things in your size that I think you'll like. That's a shopping experience like no other. It's very different from, I remember going through the racks at Matalan. If you're English, you'll know the reference, and trying to find a pair of jeans that fit me after all these pairs of jeans and nothing's tailored and nothing fits and it's horrible. And then I find a pair of jeans and it's £4 more than I have in my pocket because I've only got 30 pounds and you can't negotiate. Shopping sucks unless you're a millionaire. Absolutely. As a man, speaking as a customer, not as a businessman, as a customer of the most luxurious car garages in the world, as a customer of some of the finest tailors in the world, as a customer of some of the finest watch houses and Swiss watchmakers in the world, the number one thing you need to do is make your client feel, or if you can actually legitimately be his friend. Find something that you and your client have in common, bond with him and build a friendship with him. There's a reason I will not cheat on my tailor. And it's not because of the specific tailoring house, which I quite like. But Savile Row's filled with a bunch of tailoring houses who could, after a few runs, make me things that I'm perfectly happy with, I'm sure. But it's the people. It's the people in that store who I like and respect. That's why I will not leave. So it's exactly the same way as most men don't cheat on their barber. Why? A lot of the times he'll talk to you, hey man, how you been? How's your business? How's your breakup? And he remembers your issues. He remembers your problems. Be friends with your customers if you're doing anything that's high ticket and anything that's expensive. If you've become an integral part of a man's business, say you're in charge of his newspaper advertising, whatever it is, If it's a big client of yours and you are important to him, make sure you build that friendship. The only time that's not necessary is if you're selling ashtrays online and emailing people to see if they want some cheap consumer product. But besides that, friendship. Friendship is the way.